In this video, we're going to be drawing Conan the Barbarian. Now, welcome back to Drawing Conversation. As always, I am your dedicated nerd, host, and artist, Danny Fisher. Now, if it's your first time here, don't forget, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and leave a comment below. Let me know about the next character you want me to draw. Now, let's get going. So folks, before we get started, I want to sincerely and humbly thank you for your support. It means so much. I know that time is such a limited resource, and I am so thrilled to be spending this time with you. Now let's begin. Conan was written by the amazing Robert E. Howard in 1932 and reimagined into film by director and screenwriter John Milius 50 years later in 1982. Now, Robert E. Howard wanted to create a fantasy world filled with magic and mystery, action, adventure, good versus evil. In an era that took place after the sinking of Atlantis, but before the rise of the Sons of Ares. It was a time of high adventure. Now, the story of Conan begins in a province of the Hyborian Mountains called Cimmeria. It is here that Conan's father and master swordsmith, teaches Conan the riddle of steel. Man, how cool was that? The ancient story of how man took the enigma of steel from the god Crom, and that Conan must learn the riddle of steel. This was such a strong way to open the movie, and that sword was just wicked. I mean, it was a masterpiece. Now, it isn't long before the antagonist of the story is introduced, and this guy is Thulsa Doom, played by the incomparable James Earl Jones, and man, James Earl Jones just steals the show every time he comes on scene. Now, Thulsa Doom represents an ancient evil, an old hate from way back. He is a powerful sorcerer with a range of abilities, from controlling snakes to shape-shifting. He also has this hypnotic stare that he can use to pretty much take over anyone's mind and grow his influence over mankind. He's also the figurehead of the unnamed serpent cult. Kind of like the first Slytherin, only like 100% evil. It's also worth mentioning that in Robert E. Howard's original writing of Thulsa Doom, he was originally called the Conqueror's villain from thousands of years before the time of Conan. I don't know if John Milius, the director, did this intentionally or it was just coincidental, but he hearkened back to an evil that Kull the Conqueror could not extinguish. He could only push Thulsa Doom into the shadow. He could never fully eradicate this evil from the earth. Hey, more on Kull later, promise. Now, Thulsa Doom and his henchmen show up in force and raid Conan's village, slaughtering everyone and taking the children as prisoners. All the children are sent north to the Wheel of Pain, and Conan grows strong, becoming a man knowing only the Wheel of Pain, the sound of the whip, and the sting on his back. Outgrowing or outliving others on the Wheel of Pain, he is then taken to be tested in gladiatorial combat. Conan soon shows he possesses a natural talent for pit fighting, and soon his victories could not easily be counted. He is sent to the Far East to be trained further in the discipline of steel, mastering the art of sword combat. But still, his thoughts of vengeance grow in his heart. At the height of his career, for reasons unknown, his captors set him free, with only the clothes on his back and chains around his ankle. Chased by wild dogs, he finds refuge in a small cave and soon discovers that it's a tomb to a great king. And it is at this point that Conan finds the Sword of Atlantis. Now guys, I want to insert a bit of my fan fiction here, if I may. You see, this moment in the movie is just so brief, but it resonated in me as a kid. Who was this king? What was his story? I want to reach back to the pages of Robert E. Howard's work with Kull the Conqueror. Again, Kull existed thousands of years before Conan. Howard wrote the story of Kull the Conqueror, how he was exiled from Atlantis. And similar to Conan's past, Kull was a slave, a pirate, an outlaw, a gladiator. He eventually rises and becomes a soldier, a captain, a general, and finally, a king. And it is here that Howard stops his writing, with Kull becoming the king. And hey, I get it. Kull's weapon of choice was the axe, but this guy was no slouch with a sword. My fan fiction is that we are looking at Kull the King, sitting with the Sword of Atlantis, forged with Atlantean technology, and it is sheer destiny that Conan, the very progeny of Kull, finds this weapon. And now we get to see Conan no longer the Cimmerian, no longer Conan the slave, Conan the gladiator, but is at this point that we get Conan the Barbarian. Man, guys, I'm sorry. If you haven't guessed it yet, I love me some Conan. Oh, my inner nerd is truly doing cartwheels. Now, no story of vengeance is complete without a crew. And Conan introduces us to an all-star group. While on the path of vengeance, Conan meets the wizard Akiro, played by the immortal Mako Iwamatsu, who just happens to be my grandfather. I'm sorry. I'm totally kidding. I'm sorry. That was a joke. I can't back that up. There's no substance to that. I'm sorry. Now, this guy is great. I really thought that when they introduced this wizard, he was full of crap, but he wasn't. He could locate lost people, conjure fire, and bring back people from the dead. Well, deadish. Kind of like an Asian Miracle Max. But he was awesome. He was amazing in this role, and I honestly couldn't imagine anyone else playing that role but Mako Iwamatsu. We also find the stunning Valaria, played by the mesmerizing Sandal Bergman. She represented to me the equal to Conan in every way. Master with the sword and a talented thief. I mean, come on. She was smart, she was sexy, she was tough, and had that take life by the throat and make it your wench mentality. And come on, you want to live forever? Now she falls deeply in love with Conan, and Conan in love with her. But in the end, she suffers more than anyone. Last but not least, we have Subutai, master archer and thief. A guy I really didn't like when they were first introducing him in the movie. And I think it was because he was chained up and it looked like he was a criminal. I was like, don't let him free Conan. Just don't do it. But this guy was all ride or die for Conan. I mean, tough enough to slit a man's throat, but not too tough to cry. This character honestly grows on you throughout the film, or it did for me, and ends up saving Conan's life on more than one occasion. Now guys, this movie pulls you through the story of action-adventure, of sword and sorcery. Will Crom hear Conan's prayers? Will Conan find the vengeance he deserves? Or will the evil that is Thulsa Doom spread like a disease, and take over the world. Well, this is the part where I triple dog dare you. Go out, watch this movie. You will not be disappointed. So guys, there you have it. My take on Conan the Barbarian. I truly hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, subscribe, turn on your notifications, share this video, and leave a comment below. And I hope to talk to you again real soon.